This is a short video showing how to make audit adjustments in the UAN software. Your auditor just notified you that they completed the biannual audit and they found you posted a receipt wrong in the prior years. You have to post an audit adjustment. Yikes! You don't know how to do that. Well, let me help you. The first thing we need to clear up is you cannot go back into the prior year and reallocate that receipt. It can't be done. When you close a prior year, it's locked down and you can't get back into it. Prior year errors are corrected by changing the current year beginning fund balance. I know that creates some questions in your mind how you're going to do that. Let me take you into the UAN software and show you how to post audit adjustments. It's April 26th in Training Land, and my auditor told me to make these adjustments immediately and send him a report that shows it has been done. I have to reduce the Road and Bridge Fund by $1,000 and increase the General Fund by $1,000. These fund balance adjustments net to zero, so they will have no impact on my overall cash balance. We will discuss this subject further when we get to the end of the process and are clearing the adjustments on the bank reconciliation. Before I post the fund balance adjustments, I have to answer two questions. The first, do I have $1,000 cash in the Road and Bridge Fund? We go to Accounting, Reports and Statements, and Fund Reports. And I use the fund status to check my cash balance. I'm just going to select all the funds and display. Now my adjustment is going to reduce the Road and Bridge Fund. So I look at the fund balance column and I have $10,000. So if I reduce the fund by $1,000, I'm okay. If an audit adjustment will cause your fund balance to go below zero, you will need to work with the Auditor of State's local government services to address this problem. Let me close this report. And let's answer the second question. Do I have at least $1,000 of the Road and Bridge Fund's resources available that have not been appropriated by the board? I'm already in Accounting, Reports and Statements, and now we choose Budgetary Reports, and from the drop-down list, Comparison of Budget and Appropriated. Now I'm only going to concern myself with the funds that are going to receive a negative fund balance adjustment. I have to reduce the balance. So I'm selecting in my example only the Road and Bridge Fund, and I'll click Display. Okay, we are looking at a combination of our resources available, which is the same as our amended certificate's total resources available, and comparing that to what my board has appropriated. And that gives us the variance column. Resources available less what we have currently appropriated is my variance, the amount still available to appropriate. When I'm reducing the beginning of year fund balance, I'm going to take away part of my resources available, and I have to make sure that isn't going to create a compliance violation in the current year. Well, what do I mean by that? My fund balance is connected to my total estimated resources. The annual estimated resources begin with the fund balance and is adjusted by all of these inside columns, minus reserve for encumbrance, minus the non-spendable balance. There are other things that adjust this. And then you add to that estimated revenue for the year. It gives us the total estimated resources. If I'm taking away from that very first number of the calculation, then my total estimated resources is going to be reduced as well. So I currently have $16,122.80 of estimated resources on my amended certificate. If I reduce that by $1,000, I'll have $15,122.80. And when I compare that to my final appropriation, it will still be okay because my final appropriations will still be below my estimated resources. So if you're looking at the comparison of budget and appropriated and your variance column is sufficient, that you can reduce your fund balances by the audit adjustment without creating a problem, you can move forward with the fund balance adjustments. But if you see a 0 in the variance column or less than you need, watch this next section. Those of you who have sufficient variance, skip the section on understanding how to reduce appropriations and go straight to the fund balance adjustments. Okay, so this is a completely different comparison of budget and appropriated. You can't connect it to the first one I showed you. If you are looking at your comparison of budget and appropriated and the variance column is less than you need to reduce the fund balance, again, in my example, my negative adjustment to the Road and Bridge Fund needs to be $1,000, but I only have a variance of $597.80. That means if I reduce my beginning of year fund balance, that will reduce my total estimated resources to $15,122.80, and that is less than my final appropriations, and then we'd be breaking the law. We cannot have appropriated more than our resources available. So before I could post the fund balance adjustment, my board would have to meet and reduce appropriations by adopting a piece of legislation such as a resolution reducing appropriations. If you're a village, you may not be using the resolution type. Ask your legal advisor to help you with the legislation. So this is where your auditor may have some problems because the auditor wants you to post your fund balance adjustments immediately and send him proof so he can prove that your audit is closed, and yet you may not meet until next month. In UAN, you could date the reduction of appropriations at your next month's meeting and date the fund balance adjustments as of your next month's meeting and send that documentation off to your auditor. But you have to remember at your next monthly meeting to have the board adopt the reduction in appropriations. So if you choose to do this ahead of your meeting, make sure you don't forget to get the legislation adopted. So for those of you that have an insufficient variance, you will have to decrease appropriations before you can post those fund balance adjustments. Otherwise, you will receive a compliance violation showing you have more appropriations than you have estimated resources. Let me show you how to reduce appropriations when that step is required to be taken. I'm going to close this report. Close the budgetary report, and we go to accounting, maintenance, and appropriation budgets. Now my board is meeting tonight. Now that's awfully convenient. You might be meeting a month from now. So I'm going to mark my Road and Bridge Fund and click supplemental. And I'm going to be reducing my appropriations in order to create a sufficient variance. I had a variance of $597.80 and I need a variance of $1,000. So that means I have to reduce appropriations by $402.20 to get $1,000 available. So I'm going to split that between multiple account codes. If you have one account code you can take it from, you can. I'll subtract 200 from contracted services and 202.20 from my second account. Okay, that gives me a total of reducing appropriations by $402.20. I type a purpose in the box and I select an effective date. Remember, the effective date of the reduction in appropriations is your meeting date that the board adopts that legislation. If this is going to happen at a date in the future, make sure you have prepared that legislation and it gets adopted. Otherwise, you're still going to get a compliance violation. My meeting night is tonight, and I click Save and Close. Now, if I go back to my budgetary report and comparison of budget and appropriated, I have a sufficient variance. So a sufficient variance means I am not going to get a compliance violation when I reduce my fund balance from the beginning of the year. Now I'm ready to proceed with the fund balance adjustments. I'm going to go to Accounting, Utilities, and Fund Balance Adjustment Utility, and click the Add button. It's going to modify my beginning of year balance and only posted when necessary, and they will be closely scrutinized during my audit, not just the current audit, but my next audit. Click OK and choose your funds. So I'm going to increase my general fund first, select Audit Adjustment, type in the amount and the adjusted year. Sometimes it's a combination of mistakes from both years. If it is, type in the second year of the audit year. If you know exactly what year the mistake was made in, enter that adjusted year. And the date. So my calendar date today is 4/26. My board is meeting today to reduce appropriations. If you have an insufficient variance and your board has to reduce appropriations and you have entered that as of your next meeting date, the date you should use is your next meeting date. If you already had a sufficient variance, use today's date on your fund balance adjustments. My meeting is today and my fund balance adjustments are dated today. Type a purpose in the box, something meaningful. If you know exactly what the mistake was, be specific. And if that purpose is going to be used in more than one adjustment like it is in mine, I can highlight that and copy it. If the mistakes are different between funds, don't post in the same reason. I'm going to post that first adjustment. The confirmation is at the bottom. I go back up to the top and now I can reduce my road and bridge fund. Mark Audit Adjustment. This is my negative adjustment, minus 1,000. My adjusted year, in my case, I know it is 2016. My date, use the same date that you posted the first one. Keep them all dated the same. And if it was the same reason, you can paste that. And post. Continue until you complete all your fund balance adjustments required for the audit and click Close. The system gives you the opportunity to print the fund balance adjustment report. Print that for your records. The audit adjustments are going to appear on the list on the fund balance adjustment utility the rest of this year. There's nothing for you to do with them here. Close that form. If you need to email that report to your auditor, you can generate a PDF report by going to Accounting Reports and Fund Balance Adjustment Reports. Select only your audit adjustments. You can see that in the type column. They are not going to want you to include any other adjustments like avoiding of a prior year warrant unless they wanted to see proof of that. So mark those, save as PDF, save them to your computer, and then you can attach them as an email. Remember that your fund balance adjustments have changed your beginning of year fund balance. Remember also that in my case, we had to reduce appropriations. For both items, the reduction of appropriation and the changes in fund balances, I have to notify my county auditor. Let me show you an example of the letter that I sent my county auditor. Here's a sample of my letter the day after my meeting when my resolution reducing appropriations has been signed and I have posted those fund balance adjustments. You can see that my letter is on letterhead. It's an official document that has been signed. Let me scroll down to the body of the letter. This first paragraph is addressing the fact that we had to post the fund balance adjustments, but I also, in my case, had to reduce appropriations first. If you didn't have to reduce appropriations, the sentence that says in order to post the fund balance adjustments, our board had to adopt a resolution reducing appropriations, you wouldn't include that. Those of you that had to reduce your appropriations first, you need to send a copy of that resolution or ordinance if you're a village and used an ordinance to your county showing them that the appropriations were reduced first. Notice that I say that I'm including a fund balance adjustment report and a new resource is available for appropriation after the adjustments were made, so my county can see what I have done and what the amended certificate I'm requesting should look like. So make sure that you're providing the documentation required to your county to amend those beginning of year fund balances and when required, reducing appropriations. Once you receive that new amended certificate, there is nothing to post in UAN. Everything is already posted. And if at the next meeting your board is going to appropriate the additional resources in the funds that received a positive adjustment, that is a completely separate piece of legislation for supplemental appropriations. Let's move forward in time to the bank reconciliation and see what you need to do to finalize the fund balance adjustments. We have whizzed forward in time. It is now May 4th, and I am working on my April 30th bank reconciliation. And when I added, and then each time I edit my bank reconciliation, I receive the important read carefully message telling me I have outstanding adjustments for this bank reconciliation period. Please don't ignore this. You are leaving things behind that need to be addressed. So I'm going to click OK to that message and we'll talk about this. Now notice I've already gotten the green check mark that leads a lot of people to just click Save and Post. But I got the warning message that said there are outstanding adjustments. I have to go to the Primary Adjustments tab and clear my fund balance adjustments to tell my software these have been completed and I don't need them to be an outstanding item. If my fund balance adjustments net to zero, meaning all of my positives are equal to all of my negatives, it isn't going to change the fact that I already reconcile with the bank. It is simply going to show the software these items are completed. They won't be outstanding any longer. You should always clear your fund balance adjustments. If they throw you out of balance because your fund balance adjustments did not net to zero, you need to contact your auditor and you may need to work with local government services to deal with the unreconciled balance that you have caused by your fund balance adjustments. UAN can tell you how to do fund balance adjustments. You will need to work with audit and possibly local government services to take care of an unreconciled difference. I hope the information in this video was helpful. If you need assistance with the steps shown in this video, contact UAN support using the information provided on the screen. All UAN Housekeeping Series videos qualify for House Bill 10 training. If you have any questions about self-reporting your training hours, please call or email your question using the contact information you see on the screen now. This video is not long enough to self-report by itself. If you have only watched this video, you cannot self-report the time. However, if you watch more videos in the housekeeping series and their combined time is at least 30 minutes, you can self-report the combined time.